Remember when a simple sandwich could capture the spirit of an entire era? The world is changing rapidly. Bell-bottoms and disco balls rule the scene, and new ideas are swirling everywhere, even in the simplest of places, like the local deli counter. Back then, sandwiches were not just a quick bite, they were a canvas for creativity, a way to express the spirit of the times. Each bite carried the taste of an era that celebrated innovation, bold flavors, and a dash of rebellion. Today, many of those once beloved creations have faded into history. Let's look at 25 most famous sandwiches from the past that still bring back old memories and interest. Tuna Salad Sandwich. The tuna salad sandwich was once the talk of every lunchroom. In the 1970s, it wasn't just about tuna mixed with mayo. It was a carefully crafted blend of flakes, crunchy celery, and a secret squeeze of lemon that turned an ordinary meal into an experience. Imagine sitting in a bright, sunlit kitchen while your mom or neighbor prepared this delight with extra care, each spoonful a promise of flavor. In that era, the tuna salad sandwich symbolized comfort and reliability. It was served on freshly sliced white bread, sometimes with a leaf of lettuce for that added crispness. The taste was simple yet memorable, a perfect mix of tangy and creamy that resonated with the optimism of the time. However, as the years passed and new, flashier recipes emerged, the classic tuna salad slowly slipped into the background. Its modest charm was overshadowed by bolder trends, leaving it as a quiet reminder of a simpler time. Yet, for those who remember it, the tuna salad sandwich still brings a warm smile and a longing for those unhurried, home-cooked lunches. Cheesesteak Sandwich. No list of 1970s classics would be complete without the iconic Cheesesteak Sandwich. Born in the bustling streets and corner delis of America's urban centers, this sandwich was all about indulgence. Thin slices of beef, grilled with onions, and topped with a generous layer of melted cheese, were served in a long, soft roll that practically begged you to take a big, satisfying bite. The cheesesteak was a symbol of the era's love for hearty, no-nonsense meals. It was the kind of sandwich that could fill you up after a long day and leave you with a warm, contented feeling. Yet, as culinary trends evolved and new, flashier creations entered the scene, the cheesesteak's once dominant presence began to wane. Still, for those who grew up with its unmistakable taste, the cheesesteak sandwich remains a cherished memory, a reminder that some flavors, no matter how simple, have a way of etching themselves permanently into our hearts. Peanut butter and jelly sandwich. For many, the peanut butter and jelly sandwich is synonymous with the carefree days of youth. In the 1970s, this simple yet delightful creation was a lunchtime favorite among school children and busy parents alike. The sandwich was a delicate balance between the rich, nutty flavor of peanut butter and the sweet, tangy burst of jelly, often made from locally sourced berries, giving it an authentic homemade touch. This sandwich wasn't just about nutrition, it was about nostalgia. Children would trade halves with friends, and a well-made peanut butter and jelly was almost like a badge of honor. Even though its recipe hasn't changed much over the years, the charm of the 1970s version lay in its simplicity and the way it brought people together. As culinary trends moved on to more sophisticated ingredients, the classic peanut butter and jelly quietly receded from the limelight, remembered fondly by those who grew up with it as a symbol of simple, unpretentious joy. Chicken Salad Sandwich. The chicken salad sandwich of the 1970s was a masterpiece of mix and match flavors. Imagine tender chunks of chicken blended with crisp celery, red grapes for a burst of sweetness, and a dollop of tangy mayonnaise that tied it all together. Served on a slice of hearty multi-grain bread, it offered a satisfying crunch with every bite. This sandwich was popular among those who sought a refreshing yet filling meal, perfect for a midday break or a light dinner. The recipe often varied from household to household, with some adding nuts or even a hint of curry for an extra kick. Its versatility made it a darling of summer picnics and backyard barbecues. But as fast food chains and mass-produced meals began to dominate, the art of crafting a homemade chicken salad sandwich fell by the wayside. Today, it lives on only in the memories of those who remember a time when lunch was an occasion to be savored and shared. Patty Melt. A cross between a hamburger and a classic melt, the Patty Melt was the unexpected hero of the 1970s sandwich scene. This creation took a juicy beef patty and nestled it between slices of rye bread, interlaced with caramelized onions and oozing cheese. It was a meal that defied convention, a hybrid that brought together the best of two worlds in a way that was both indulgent and downright delicious. The Patty Melt was a favorite at roadside diners and local burger joints, where the sizzle of the beef on the grill was was music to hungry ears. Its rich, hearty flavor was perfect for those long, lazy afternoons when you needed a meal that was as filling as it was satisfying. Over time, however, newer trends in fast food and gourmet sandwiches began to overshadow the Patty Melt's unique charm. While it may have receded from the mainstream, its legacy as a daring, innovative creation of the 1970s continues to live on in the memories of those who once savored its bold flavors. Grilled cheese sandwich. A staple of childhood memories, the grilled cheese sandwich in the 1970s was more than just melted cheese between slices of buttered bread. It was an event. Picture a sizzling skillet, the aroma of toasted bread mingling with the rich, gooey sound of cheese melting into perfection. In those days, families gathered around the kitchen table, eagerly awaiting the moment when that sandwich would emerge golden and irresistible. The recipe was simple: a generous slab of American cheese, a sprinkle of salt, and sometimes even a dash of paprika for a hint of mystery. The grilled cheese was the comfort food of the decade, a symbol of warmth and familiarity. As inventive culinary trends took center stage, the grilled cheese was seen as old-fashioned, its humble simplicity lost amid the high-gloss experimentation of newer recipes. Yet it remains a timeless reminder of cozy afternoons and the small pleasures of life, one crispy bite at a time. Ham and cheese sandwich. There was something comforting about biting into a ham and cheese sandwich in the 1970s. The smoky, salty flavor of thinly sliced ham, paired with the mellow creaminess of cheese, made for a perfect midday treat. Often layered between two slices of freshly baked bread, this sandwich was both quick and satisfying, a true embodiment of convenience and taste. Many remember the ritual of this sandwich as a lunchbox staple, lovingly wrapped in wax paper and tucked into a thermos for school or work. The combination was so iconic that it sparked variations across diners and delis. Some even added a squirt of mustard to give it a little extra zing. Despite its widespread popularity during the decade, the humble ham and cheese eventually became overshadowed by flashier, more modern creations. Today, while it might not command the spotlight in trendy cafes, its simplicity and nostalgic flavor continue to evoke memories of simpler days and honest, unpretentious meals. Pastrami on rye. Few sandwiches carry the weight of history quite like the pastrami on rye. In the 1970s, this sandwich was more than just a meal. It was a ritual. Generations of families and city dwellers alike would gather at their favorite delis to enjoy thick slices of spicy pastrami, piled high on soft rye bread and often accompanied by a smear of mustard. Its robust flavor, imbued with the smoky essence of slow-cooked meat, captured the spirit of the urban culinary scene. The pastrami on rye was celebrated for its simplicity and heartiness. Each bite was a mix of savory spices and tender meat that told a story of tradition and hard work. Over time, as culinary tastes shifted towards lighter fare and international flavors, the sandwich that once reigned supreme in deli counters began to lose its appeal. Yet, for those who experienced its glory, the pastrami on rye remains a symbol of a time when food was not only nourishment, but also a celebration of heritage and community. Club sandwich. The club sandwich emerged in the 1970s as a symbol of sophistication wrapped in layers of flavor. With its triple-decker construction, this sandwich was a marvel of culinary engineering, a delicate balance of toasted bread, layers of turkey, bacon, lettuce, and tomato, all held together by a generous spread of mayo. Its appearance was as impressive as its taste, often served with a side of crispy chips or a pickle spear. At local diners and family gatherings, the club sandwich was more than just food. It was an experience. Its layered texture and combination of savory ingredients created a satisfying crunch and burst of flavor with every bite. Yet, as the decade wore on, the trend of deconstructed or fusion dishes began to steal the limelight. The classic club, with its familiar ingredients and straightforward preparation, was slowly forgotten by a generation that began to crave innovation over tradition. Still, for those who remember it well, the club sandwich is a culinary relic, a reminder that sometimes the simplest ingredients can come together to create something truly special. Reuben Sandwich. Bold and brimming with character, the Reuben Sandwich was a true icon of the 1970s deli scene. Crafted with layers of corned beef, Swiss cheese, sauerkraut, and a generous drizzle of Russian dressing, all grilled between slices of rye bread, the Reuben was a flavor explosion that captured the heart of the working class. Its robust taste and hearty composition made it a favorite among those in need of a meal that was as filling as it was flavorful. The story of the Reuben is steeped in urban legend, a sandwich sandwich born out of necessity and perfected over countless lunch breaks. Its smoky, tangy notes were a perfect counterpoint to the ordinary, elevating the everyday lunch to an event of epic proportions. However, as fast food and prepackaged meals took over the market, the artisanal care required to create a perfect Reuben became a lost art. Though its robust legacy lives on in some corner delis, the classic Reuben sandwich has largely faded from mainstream menus, remembered fondly by food lovers as a symbol of a bygone era of culinary craftsmanship. Liverwurst on rye. Not every sandwich from the 1970s was about bold innovation. Some were delightfully daring in their simplicity. The liverwurst on rye is one such example. With a spreadable liverwurst layered onto hearty rye bread, this sandwich was an acquired taste that polarized opinions. To some, it was a culinary adventure, and to others, it was simply too far removed from familiar flavors. For those brave enough to give it a try, the liverwurst on rye offered a unique blend of creamy, savory notes with the slight tang of rye. It was often enjoyed with a few pickles on the side and a cup of hot coffee, creating a meal that was both rustic and unapologetically bold. Though its popularity has waned over the decades, the liverwurst on rye remains a testament to an era when trying new things was part of the daily culinary experiment. It challenges modern palates to step outside the conventional and rediscover a flavor that, while unusual, was deeply woven into the fabric of 1970s dining. Tuna Melt. The Tuna Melt carried the promise of a warm, comforting hug in sandwich form. Imagine a freshly made tuna salad layered with a slice of tangy tomato and crowned with a blanket of melted cheese, all toasted to perfection on a slice of buttered bread. In the 1970s, it was the go-to lunch for those chilly days when nothing else could lift your spirits quite like a hot, savory meal. This sandwich was often a spontaneous creation, a solution for those moments when leftovers and a bit of culinary ingenuity met. The process of melting the cheese over the tuna created a delightful mix of textures, a crispy edge paired with a creamy, savory center. Yet, as the world of cuisine began to shift towards cold cuts and more exotic ingredients, the Tuna Melt slowly slipped out of favor. Today, while modern diners might not remember its once ubiquitous presence, those who enjoyed it recall the Tuna Melt as a heartwarming testament to the era's unpretentious but deeply satisfying approach to lunch. Italian sub. Bursting with Mediterranean flair, the Italian sub was a celebration of bold flavors and vibrant ingredients. In the 1970s, this sandwich was a mosaic of cured meats, sharp provolone cheese, crisp lettuce, juicy tomatoes, and zesty oil and vinegar, all tucked inside a long, crusty roll. Every bite was a taste of Italy and America, a fusion of old-world charm with a distinctly modern twist. The Italian sub quickly became a favorite for its generous portions and dynamic taste. It was often seen as a feast in itself, a perfect meal for a quick lunch or a hearty snack after a long day. The blend of spicy salami, sweet ham, and tangy dressing created a symphony of flavors that resonated with those looking for something exciting and new. As the years went by and the sandwich market evolved, the Italian sub was gradually pushed aside by flashier, trendier offerings. Still, its impact on the culinary landscape of the 1970s is undeniable, and for many, it remains an emblem of a time when every meal was an adventure. Grinder Sandwich. The Grinder Sandwich, with its unassuming name, was a workhorse of the 1970s lunch scene. This sandwich was all about substance, a hefty filling of assorted meats, melted cheese, and a drizzle of savory dressing, all pressed between slices of a soft yet sturdy roll. The Grinder was designed for those days when you needed a filling, no-nonsense meal that could power you through the rest of the afternoon. Its origins were humble, often born out of necessity in small-town diners and greasy spoon cafes. The Grinder's appeal lay in its straightforward approach to comfort food. No frills, just honest, satisfying ingredients. As the culinary world began to embrace flashier presentations and more exotic flavor pairings, the simple Grinder lost its prominence on the menu boards of chain diners and local eateries. Still, for those who remember its robust taste, the Grinder sandwich stands as a reminder of a time when a good meal didn't need fancy ingredients, just quality, heart, and a lot of love. Cuban Sandwich. The Cuban Sandwich carried with it the vibrant energy of a distant land, yet it found a home in the 1970s American lunch scene. This pressed masterpiece was a mix of roasted pork, ham, Swiss cheese, pickles, and mustard, all layered on Cuban bread and heated to create a harmonious blend of crisp and melty textures. It was a sandwich that sang with the flavors of tropical warmth and old-world tradition. In bustling urban centers, the Cuban Sandwich was a symbol of cultural fusion, a bite of the exotic right in the middle of everyday American life. Its preparation was almost ritualistic, with each ingredient meticulously placed to ensure the perfect balance of sweet, salty, and tangy notes. As trends in global cuisine advanced, the once ubiquitous Cuban began to fade from the menus of many old-school diners. Yet, its legacy remains intact for those who recall the satisfying crunch of Cuban bread and the burst of flavor that only a true Cuban sandwich could deliver. Roast beef sandwich. The roast beef sandwich was a heavyweight contender in the 1970s lunch arena. Thick, succulent slices of roast beef, often piled high and served with a smear of horseradish or a dash of au jus, created a sandwich that was as filling as it was flavorful. It was the perfect pick-me-up after a long day, offering both protein and a comforting dose of nostalgia. This sandwich was a favorite among working-class folk who sought a meal that was both hearty and affordable. The aroma of sizzling beef on a hot griddle, combined with the rustic taste of crusty bread, created a sensory experience that was hard to beat. Over time, however, the fast-paced evolution of the food industry saw the roast beef sandwich relegated to a niche status, overshadowed by flashier, trendier alternatives. Still, for many, that classic combination of tender beef and savory sauce remains a touchstone, a reminder that some of the best meals are the ones that bring people together over simple, honest flavors. Fluffernutter Sandwich. No discussion of forgotten 1970s sandwiches would be complete without a nod to the Fluffernutter Sandwich, a playful combination of peanut butter and marshmallow fluff. In a time when kitchens were experimenting with fun and unconventional pairings, the Fluffernutter became a hit among kids and the young at heart. Its sweet, gooey texture and the delightful contrast between nutty and sugary made it a lunchtime treat that was both whimsical and memorable. The Fluffernutter wasn't just about satisfying hunger, it was about embracing the joy of simple pleasures. Packaged in a soft slice of white bread, it symbolized an era when meals were lighthearted and culinary risks were met with smiles rather than skepticism. Over time, as diets shifted and trends veered towards healthier options, the sugary delight of the Fluffernutter slowly retreated from the spotlight. Yet, its playful spirit continues to evoke fond memories of carefree days when a sandwich could be as much about fun as it was about flavor. Chicken Parmesan Sandwich. Blending Italian flair with American innovation, the Chicken Parmesan Sandwich captured the spirit of the 1970s experimental kitchens. Imagine a breaded chicken cutlet smothered in marinara sauce, layered with melted mozzarella and Parmesan cheeses, and tucked into a fresh roll. The result was a sandwich that felt both indulgent and hearty, an edible celebration of cross-cultural creativity. This sandwich was a hit in family diners, where chefs weren't afraid to experiment with bold flavors. The Chicken Parmesan Sandwich offered a comforting warmth that paired perfectly with the era's love for all things cheesy and saucy. Despite its once popular status, the rise of more streamlined fast food options and international fusion dishes eventually nudged this hearty creation into the realm of forgotten culinary experiments. Yet, for those who savored its rich, tangy taste, it remains a delicious reminder of a time when even sandwiches were daring enough to cross borders and break the rules of traditional lunch fare. Roast pork sandwich. In the bustling kitchens of the 1970s, the roast pork sandwich carved out its own niche as a robust, flavorsome meal. Thin slices of tender roast pork, sometimes spiced with hints of garlic and herbs, were layered between pieces of freshly baked bread. A drizzle of tangy barbecue sauce or a dollop of mustard often accompanied it, enhancing its hearty character with a burst of savory zest. The roast pork sandwich was especially popular among those looking for a meal that could stand up to the energetic pace of daily life. Its deep, comforting flavors resonated with the hard-working spirit of the decade. Over time, however, as trends veered toward lighter, more refined flavors, the bold simplicity of the roast pork sandwich faded into the background. Still, in the memories of those who once relished its satisfying taste, it endures as a reminder of an era when meat and flavor were celebrated in every hearty bite. Meatball Sub, a sandwich that practically sang of indulgence. The meatball sub was the rock star of the 1970s lunch scene. Heaping meatballs nestled in a soft, elongated roll, drenched in rich tomato sauce and often topped with melted cheese, created a culinary experience that was as dramatic as it was delicious. Every bite was a testament to the era's love for hearty, comforting dishes that packed a punch. The meatball sub was a favorite at Italian-American diners, where the aroma of simmering sauce sauce and freshly baked bread created an irresistible magnetism for hungry patrons. Its layers of flavors, from the spiced meatballs to the tangy sauce, were a perfect match for the bold spirit of the times. As the food industry shifted its focus towards lighter and more refined fare, the meatball sub gradually took a back seat on modern menus. French dip sandwich. The French dip sandwich brought a touch of continental elegance to the American lunch table in the 1970s. With thinly sliced roast beef piled high on a crusty roll and served alongside a small cup of savory au jus for dipping, it was a sandwich that invited you to take your time, savoring every morsel. The dipping ritual was almost ceremonial, a moment of quiet indulgence amidst the hustle and bustle of daily life. This sandwich was prized not only for its rich, beefy flavor, but also for the interactive experience it offered. Diners would dunk their sandwiches into the warm, savory broth, relishing the way the juices melded with the bread and meat. Egg and cress sandwich. A little different from the meat-heavy fare of its contemporaries, the egg and cress sandwich was a quiet, elegant offering of the 1970s. It combined the simplicity of hard-boiled eggs with the peppery, fresh bite of garden cress, all layered on soft, lightly buttered bread. This sandwich was a favorite for those who craved a lighter meal that was both nutritious and satisfying. The egg and cress sandwich had a subtle charm, a gentle interplay between the creamy eggs and the crisp, slightly spicy cress. It was often enjoyed during a leisurely brunch or as a midday snack, evoking memories of sunlit mornings and slow, relaxed conversations. Though its unassuming ingredients may seem plain by today's standards, in the 1970s, this sandwich was a nod to the era's embrace of fresh, simple flavors. As modern tastes shifted towards more elaborate presentations, the egg and cress sandwich quietly faded from public memory, yet it remains a delightful reminder of a time when simplicity was celebrated. Veggie Delight Sandwich. Rounding out our journey is the Veggie Delight Sandwich, a testament to the quieter yet equally important trends of the 1970s. While many of its peers were meat-laden and indulgent, the Veggie Delight celebrated fresh vegetables and wholesome ingredients. Crisp lettuce, ripe tomatoes, crunchy cucumbers, and a variety of other garden-fresh offerings were layered between slices of whole-grain bread, often accompanied by a light spread of cream cheese or hummus. This sandwich was a favorite among those seeking a healthier, more refreshing alternative to the heavier options of the day. It represented a subtle shift in taste, a recognition that food could be both nourishing and satisfying without being overly rich. Although it never reached the same level of fame as some of its meatier cousins, the Veggie Delight Sandwich was beloved in its own right. Turkey sandwich. The turkey sandwich in the 1970s was a versatile, reliable staple that graced countless lunchboxes and diner menus. Simple yet satisfying, it featured slices of turkey breast, often smoked or roasted, with a bit of lettuce and tomato and a spread of mayo on freshly baked bread. It was the kind of sandwich that promised both nourishment and a gentle reminder of home-cooked comfort. For many, the turkey sandwich was more than just a meal. It was a ritual. It represented the quiet dignity of a well-made, no-fuss lunch that could be enjoyed at work, school, or a casual family gathering. Over time, as the culinary world began exploring more elaborate fare, the classic turkey sandwich was gradually replaced by more inventive variants. Still, for those who remember its warm, unassuming taste, the turkey sandwich remains an enduring symbol of an era when simple ingredients, prepared with care, were more than enough to brighten a day. Today, as we reflect on these 25 forgotten sandwiches from the 1970s, we're reminded of a time when every meal was an event. Let this journey be a tribute to a bygone era, a reminder that while times change, the essence of good food remains eternal. So next time you pass by a deli or open your fridge, consider revisiting these classics. You might just find that the spirit of the 1970s is waiting to surprise you, one delicious bite at a time.